What is going on, guys? Rogue TCG here, bringing the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG deck profile. Now, I know the last two deck profiles that I brought to you were related to the regionals. However, this one is not. This is a deck idea that I remember seeing floating around, being Musket, Fiendsmith, Yubel, and I decided I wanted to try and reverse engineer it and build it from scratch. So here I have brought to you Magical Musketeer, Fiendsmith, Yubel. Now, the idea with this deck is to make Yubel a lot stronger when it's going second. Now, everyone knows how good the Yubel boards are when they're going first, and this deck does not really change that, to be completely honest. Any one Magical Musketeer allows us to get access to the Yubel portion of the engine, even though we are playing, as you can see, such a very small amount of the Yubel cards. One single Magical Musketeer can allow us to gain access to that, so going first, no problem, and then going second, we have access to the Magical Musketeer cards, especially Magical Musketeer Max, in order to make going second a lot easier. Now, the one thing I am going to be saying about this deck is it's not particularly great against Malice, and that's just how the Magical Musketeers end up shaking out. How these cards end up really interacting with our opponent is targeted destruction, targeted negation, and then spell and trap negation as well. Unfortunately, against Malice, they have targeted dodges, and yeah, they can dodge 2 of our targeted points of interaction, and in their mainline combo, they only need to resolve 1 trap and 1 spell in order to actually really accomplish anything. And since that's turn 1, we can't really, interact with those all too much, unless we're referring to our hand traps, of course. But that's enough yapping about the overall deck profile. Let's talk about the card by card. Starting off with our muskets, I did try and cut down on the muskets as much as possible in order to make sure we're able to fit other engines in here. So we're on Triple Magical Musketeer Caspar. Whenever a spell or trap is activated in column of Caspar, we can add a musket card from our deck to our hand, other than the musket spell that was activated in the back row, if there was one. Then we're on Triple Starfire. Starfire is the same column effect, except it'll special summon a musket from our deck in defense position, flooding the field with resources, which is quite good. All the muskets, when paired in conjunction with the Fiendsmith cards, are incredibly powerful. There are also light fiends, so we can grab them off of Fiendsmith Tract, so we have no real concern about any availability of finding our muskets. And then we are on 2 more muskets, 1 copy of Magical Musketeer Dock. When a spell or trap is activated in column, we're able to add back a musket card from our graveyard to our hand, other than the card that was activated in column. And then 1 copy of Magical Musketeer Kid Brave. This is our way that we can crash into SP Little Knight if we have to. It is 1600 attack. And if a spell or trap is activated in column of Kid Brave, we're able to pitch a musket card from our hand in order to draw 2 cards, just like Malice P. Chessy Cat. But that's it for our musket monsters. Now let's cover our musket spell traps just one more time. We're on 1 Despacito, allowing us to target and pop a face-up card on the field. 1 Last Stand. This one's a lot better than you might initially think because it is a counter trap, so it will cap off the chain, and that'll negate the activation of a spell or a trap card, but we control a musket. And then Cross Domination, which is a mix between Infinite Impermanence and a whack-ass Chalice, where it'll reduce our opponent's monster's attack to 0, as well as negating the effects of the monster, so very strong card there. But that's it for our muskets. Now onto our honorary muskets. We're on the Fiendsmith cards, Triple Friendsmith Engraver. Yeah, unfortunately, you do kind of have to drop multiple Friendsmiths for this list, so not especially budget, unfortunately, but it is Yubel, so I don't think y'all are really expecting it to be budget, to be completely honest. 1 copy of Lacrima, the Crimson Tears, and 1 copy of the Fabled Lurie. We're also on triple copies of Fiendsmith Tract. Again, since we are a lot deeper into the muskets, this is just Rhoda for any of our muskets. It'll trigger our muskets if we activate it behind them. So we are opting to play triple tract in this list. There can be an argument to probably cut down 1 tract to put another piece of non-engine like Thrust in here. However, I did want to maximize the consistency of the list, so I did decide to opt out of that. And then our last Friendsmith card is 1 copy of Fiendsmith Sanct. This one's very strong in Musket Pure, and in Musket Pure you do run triple Sanct. However, since about only half the list is light fiends, we can only realistically run 1 copy of Fiendsmith Sanct and resolve it consistently. So this is just an alternative target for our Fiendsmith Engraver if we don't want to actually go through Tract and lose a resource out of our hand. But that's it for our Fiendsmith and our Magical Musket cards. Now let's head over onto our Yubel cards. For Yubel, we are only on one copy of Samsara D Lotus. This is very suspect, to be completely honest, because this is the main starter for the archetype. However, we do ideally want to be normal summoning our magical Musketeers instead of our Yubel cards, which is also why Dark Beckoning Beast is not included in this list, even though opening the Spirit Gates did just go to 3. So if you're wondering why that wasn't there, this is the reason why that's not included. The idea of the deck is that we use our musket combo until we get to the point where we get Fiendsmith Sequence. Then we're able to use Fiendsmith Sequence in order to make Aerial Eater. Aerial Eater's effect will allow us to dump Samsara D Lotus from our deck to the graveyard. Then we are able to use Fiendsmith Sequence and Aerial Eater in order to make a Muckracker from the Underworld, which allows us to discard a card as an effect in order to bring back a fiend from our graveyard, being on our Samsara D Lotus, allowing us to do our Yubel plays by grabbing us our Spirit of Yubel from deck, grabbing us our Nightmare Pain, and so on and so forth. So that's the concept of the deck. So yeah, that's why we don't really need to be playing too many Yubel cards, because all that is accessible off of one musket plus any discard. So we are also on one copy of Spirit Yubel. We're on the Yubel Twins, one normal Yubel and one Terror Incarnate, as well as one copy of Gruesome Grave Squirmer, able to bring fiends out from either our hand or our graveyard. We are also on the one Nightmare Pain, and that's it for our Yubel cards, unless we want to, shift these over. Yeah. Okay. We're also on one Terraforming and triple Nightmare Throne, so we're really on 4 copies of Nightmare Throne. We're also on the Unchained cards, of course, on one copy of Unchained Soul of Sharvara and one copy of Abominable Chamber of the Unchained. The rest of this list is going to be non-engine and hand traps, so we are on one Triple Tactics Talents, one Called by the Grave, triple Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, and triple Infinite Impermanence. In the extra deck, for musket cards, we're on one Magical Musketeer Max, and that's it for our musket cards. For our Yubel cards, we're on one copy of Phantom of Yubel and one copy of Rudris, the Final Bringer of the End Times. It's negation and popping, very powerful card. And then for our other cards, for our Fiendsmith related cards, we're on one Moon of the Closed Heaven. Even though we are on the muskets, we still want to have the ability to make the Fiendsmith line off of the Yubels, so we still are including the Moon of the Closed Heaven. One copy of Fiendsmith Requiem, one copy of Fiendsmith Sequence, one copy of Fiendsmith Agnum Day, one copy of Desiree, one copy of Necroquip, one copy of the Aerial Eater that I mentioned previously, and one copy of DDD Wave High King Caesar, of course. And lastly, for our generic Fiend cards, we're on one copy of Unchained Soul of Rage paired with the Unchained Soul Lord of Yama in order to grab the Sharvara from our deck, one copy of the Muckracker, which is important for our musket into Yubel combo, and then lastly, the one copy of SP Little Knight in order to pair with our Unchained Soul of Rage. In our side deck are just cards that I would like to bring to your attention, I guess. Specifically for the musket portion of the list, I did opt to not include Link into the Vrains into this list. If you wanted to lean a lot more into going second, Link into the Vrains is a very good choice for the musket cards, because it allows you to go into max and your opponent cannot respond to it. It also allows you to have the ability to add back cards from your graveyard when you pop them with your own Sharvara. So it's a very powerful card in this strategy. I just did not have the room to include it, and I wanted to include hand traps like Ash Blossom and Infinite Impermanence over our Link into the Vrains. Another card I would like to bring to your attention is Magical Musketeer Dancing Needle, able to target up to 3 cards in any graveyard and banish them, very, very similar to a card that's being played in this meta right now, being White Binder. So Magical Musket does have their own White Binder. I am opting to side deck it instead of main deck it because of the prevalence of Malice right now, and this card is not strong against Malice in the slightest. So I did just want to, again, bring that to your attention. But that's going to be about the end of the video. Thank you all so much for watching, if you still are. Thank you to my one member. Thank you, Ari. If you want to become a member, I'd recommend staying to the end of the video. All my end of the videos, I end up mentioning it in the credit scenes. But again, that's going to be all for the video. Thank you all so much for watching, if you still are, and I'll be seeing you all later. Bye-bye. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you wanted to talk to more Yu-Gi-Oh players like yourself, I would highly recommend checking out our Discord server. Link is going to be in the description, as well as the QR code on screen. We do talk somewhat frequently about Yu-Gi-Oh and the current meta, so I would really enjoy to see you there. As well as we do recently now have channel memberships available on our YouTube channel, where we have 3 different tiers. We have Super Supporter at $2 a month, where you get loyalty badges, emojis, guaranteed comment responses, a shout out at the end of every video, as well as access to the members only Discord channel, where you get early sneak peeks at future videos. There is the Giga Supporter at $5 a month, where you have early access to all new videos about a day or two before they go up, as well as all the previous offers. And for $15 a month, we do have our final tier, which is going to be Femboy Fanatic. You get a guaranteed customized video every single month, as well as 1 hour of my time. Could be for anything you'd like. You want a duel? Absolutely. You want me to help build a deck? Absolutely. You want to play some Helldivers? Sure. I'll do anything for an hour once a month. But supporting does help me out quite a lot, and it does help me produce all of these videos. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be seeing y'all later. Bye bye.